This is AP Med. My name is Andrew Poveda, and today I'm interviewing Chaitanya Mamillapalli.
Perfect.
He's
Yeah.
he's a med entrepreneur and especially more involved in the tech field. So we're going to be interviewing him more about each of his platforms, how he started up, and how he works as an entrepreneur and also as an endocrinologist with his journey. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi. Yeah. Thank you, Andrew, for this opportunity. And I'm a physician founder of CareHealth and MedDDX. Uh, I've been in clinical practice for about 20 years now. Through my long clinical career, I found gaps in the clinical practice, causing administrative burden, and also as a learner, the current gaps in learning that led me to start my two startups, CareHealth and MediDX. That's briefly about me.
Great.
And I did my medical school in India in Guntur Medical College, and then I did my post graduation in UK for 5 years. um, Moved to Wisconsin. We did my internal medicine residency in Marshfield Clinic in Wisconsin. Did my fellowship in SA School of Medicine, Springfield, Illinois. I joined as a faculty member, worked as a faculty member for a couple of years, and then I currently in private practice at Springfield Clinic in Springfield, Illinois, which is a large multi-specialty clinic. Also the division chief at Springfield Clinic in endocrinology.
Great. Great introduction. Um, as I like to touch base first, I always like to ask more about who you are as a person, hobbies, your culture, your background, where you're from. So let's talk about that.
Sure. Um, as I mentioned, I moved from, I did my graduation in India. And uh, for me, when I traveled outside, I was 21, and I was in, till the time I was being provided for a very, everything is close net, and everything is secure. Once I came to UK, it was like, um, although it's a tremendous change, it's a big change because a new environment. There's adjustments on multiple levels. They don't have the same security from the society, like you don't have the same community there, and you're also staying by yourself. There's also financial instability. So, and it was challenging for the first 1 year in the United Kingdom, traveling through that medicine career path and getting into a healthcare system in the United Kingdom. And After training there in the United Kingdom for 4 years,
Mhm.
I moved to Wisconsin. So, and then, as I mentioned, I did my fellowship and residency training, fellowship, and my private practice. Regarding my hobbies, I like to read a lot. I'm an avid reader, mostly of nonfiction. Very curious about how things work, and how do we dig deep regarding what it actually is happening, why it happens. I want to get inspired by real stories regarding how people have made it from modest backgrounds and how the persistence and resilience stories have transformed them into big success, right?
Yeah.
And I also watch documentaries and movies, spending time with my family, traveling. So those are my hobbies. And I also spend a lot of time tinkering with a lot of technology tools. Any tool that comes out, I try to explore it. Always pay a subscription for any new tool. Try to explore it to the fullest extent features.
Mhm.
Yeah. So a lot of my hobbies and my work are sort of interspersed in a way, which is good.
That's
When
good. Yeah.
you, yeah, I was said a quotation in one of the conferences. When you love your work, you don't work a single day in your life. So that's quotation sort of stuck to me.
I like
Uh,
that quote. Yeah. I've heard that a lot too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's difficult to find something that you really love. And of course, what happens is when you think you really love something, you do this so long, then it becomes a chore and a work. But again, that's reality.
Oh yeah. I mean, after a long time, of course, it'll be like that. But yeah. Speaking about how you mentioned talking about paying for things that you use in one of your papers, you wrote that you use Claude daily.
Mm.
Like you can't live without it, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen recently that Claude Fable came out and then they deactivated it in like a span of a day? Like
Hmm.
it's very intuitive. How do you use it in your daily life?
So I can give you examples of how I use Claude. So say for example, the interview questions today here, they're pretty fundamental, right?
Yeah.
But I've never thought about them as a person. I never sat back and discussed about it, and I don't want to come unprepared, right?
Mhm.
And it would take me a few hours to jot my thoughts down and all that. So what I did was I have the Claude on my Microsoft Word, and then I basically put what my initial thoughts on this are, like two, three things. This is my frame of thinking, and Claude helped me to articulate that better, right? So that's, I'm just giving an example that I'm using it today.
Yeah.
And two, for example, my son might be having a problem with doing his classwork or preparing for an exam like SAT or something.
Mhm.
I did all those like 30 years ago. I don't know what's happening now, right? So how do I actually communicate with him, and how do I help him understand about stuff is one more area, right? And sometimes in my on the health tech side, obviously we use it like day in and day out, not only on the actual development side, which is used by my team. For me, when I try to explain stuff to my team, it's easy for me to actually say this is a problem. How do I explain this to a technologist? Is how I translate that and
Okay.
give it to my team. That cross professional communication, it's a great translator, right? For example, it's almost like I speak medical language and my team speaks software language, and Claude is excellent in translating that, and that's where a lot of innovation happens because uh, and that's one area. And uh, for me, when my team is saying, I solve this problem, I'm facing this problem, and they say I got stuck, and then what I do is I go take the problem and then I basically put it in Claude and I ask it to explain in medical terms or analogies that I understand. And then sometimes I come with solutions which my team were not able to, right? So I'm just giving you a few examples of how I use it. These are very few, but I can go on about for an hour.
Yeah, that's good advice. I
Yeah.
mean, using it in daily application, it's you gotta know what to ask it, like what questions to ask it, because of course it has infinite information, but you don't know what you exactly want to ask it. So yeah, a question I had was how how did you know how to scale your what started off as a passion project into what is like MedX now and in your other projects that you're doing as well? Because it started off at Bootstrapped, and then I know in one of the papers it mentioned that you were raising 1 million in a safe fund. Correct
Mhm.
me if I'm wrong. Yeah,
Yeah, and like anything, I would love to say, hey, I have MediDX and CareHealth as the what we have now is my starting point. Not true, right?
definitely
You
not
start
true.
off with you start off with something really one thing is for sure, I'm very passionate about technology and solving problems.
Yeah.
And what frustrates me is when all this big companies solve very small problems. For example, all the big tech outside solve a problem regarding an algorithm to make sure the video views goes up high. And there's this great engineering minds which are at work trying to solve that problem. How to basically make a 40-second video go viral, right? But on the contrast, there's this healthcare area where we have a lot of burnout and a lot of administrative burden, and so I always wanted to solve that problem. I try to work within a system. I'm part of an IT committee in my organization, but within the organization, it's tough to change an existing system. And uh, I trained my children as a part of first Lego robotics, so I got introduced to programming, and formed actually initially an educational company to teach robotics to children. We formed the company back in 2015, ran it for 6 months, and it was a failure in that aspect. We didn't run completely, but when we pitched that at a university innovation event, I got introduced to an engineer there who is very passionate, and he was working on a healthcare data project where he took EHR data and was able to predict diabetes using EHR data, using machine learning and AI. And this was back in 2015. So this was like
Oh, wow.
11 years ago,
Yeah.
right? So we took that. Then I was also interested in research. So we took that project out there and converted that into a research paper. And I went to American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists meeting in 2019, and we got a third place prize for the research project.
Wow.
And that started off with my journey regarding my passion about healthcare technology. And then I used to participate in hackathons. And in one of the hackathon at Mayo Clinic, we got third place prize for a tool a pre-diabetes patients can use to prevent diabetes. And so I thought, okay, my ideas have legs, so I formed a company. And then I started with an idea, okay, why can't we personalize instead of starting off with the algorithm, instead of starting a protocol-based diabetes management for patients based upon guidelines, why
Okay.
can't you individualize diabetes medication based upon their holistic genetic profile and holistic risk factors? That was how the um, project started in 2022 when I formed the company. But then it was such a narrow problem, very difficult to gain traction. So I would say the version we have is like 127th version of how we pivoted regarding how we came there. So we came to the problem regarding what is a big problem that needs to be solved, and which can not only produce real value but also could be a financial commercial success, right? So it took a lot of iterations to come there. And again, it was not like a steep curve like that.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things I can also want to share here is I didn't know how to form a company when we started. I didn't know how to get a sale. I didn't know how to form a team. I don't know what a venture capital is. I don't know what equity is and all that. It is the path was not clear. The uncertainty. But one thing, as I love this, what I'm doing,
Mhm.
each time when I require that information, I have someone helping me, or it just happened. I had solutions for it, right? And one more thing I want to explain is when we create this tool, the CareHealth was our first product. What it does is it's a EHR embedded tool. That means you don't need to open a separate application. When someone opens an EHR, it's available as like a small app within it, and it can optimize workflows. So we published that application in 2023, and we didn't have any clients. And at the same time, our healthcare system, where I'm a physician partner, uh, has moved their existing electronic health record to Athena Health, and they exactly required a solution like what we have. So when the opportunity presented, I was prepared. And this is one more thing. I was lucky, but luck prepares the luck favors the prepared, right? So I was prepared when the opportunity presented, right? So that was how we were able to get to a revenue even without raising venture funds. So I just want to give that backdrop.
That's a long story,
Yeah,
but
it's a long
a
story.
lot,
Yeah.
of course, there's a lot of ups and downs of every story.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And that is a long story, but it happened over like 10 years, right? So what the point I'm trying to make is any success you peel that down, every founder has a similar story, sort of a variation of the story, right? It's
Mhm.
never like, oh, I got in a brilliant idea and then because there are things that are happening now in Silicon Valley and all that, but for most of the people, it's not the case.
True, true. Like I always hear of like new founders, new startups, they always like first you need obviously a pain point and then obviously build off of there, but it's the founder stories and why it was a problem for them and why they're the right person to solve it
Mhm.
specifically. And that's what's talked about in a lot of pitches and things like that, like you're talking about right now.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
And
Um,
again, we didn't speak about the role of AI in the company. And back, I think it is 24, ChatGPT came, 23 now, I don't know, 2.5 years back, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That really put our startup on sort of rocket speed because it made us do more with less, and that's one thing. It's a tremendous asset. I know people have very variable opinions on it, but I think it's a net positive for innovation to solve problems for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Like you mentioned before, um, taking this idea and actually getting it out to people. Like you said, you had zero users at first, nobody was
Mhm.
using it.
Yeah.
How was it marketing? How was it finding the right team for it? Because as we previously spoke about, explaining this to people that are technical, like engineers, and having them work on the platform, at the same time having an appeal for a broad audience, like we just spoke about. At first, when you were pitching, it was just a diabetes initiative, and then you expanded broader, you pivoted off of
Mhm.
that. So
Right.
how was it pivoting to a broader audience, broader market, and knowing who to tackle, like the product market fit and fitting in the right niche?
So, regard the first question about the team, and this is where you always need to have a technical co-founder, right? Someone who is very sound technically and who is committed for the long term. They can't look at the immediate rewards. And it's very difficult to find people because if someone is talented, they are scarce to find, and they have other projects that they already are busily involved in, right? So you need to be able to inspire people to join your journey about this uncertainty.
Okay.
And they're starting is something like where there is no immediate reward. It is one the chance of a successful startup is like less than 1% or something, right?
Mhm.
And so for me, the way I did this was I extended to my friends and my family and my network. Some people, one of the things also, there's this misconception that someone needs to be highly brilliant, exceptionally talented. It doesn't necessarily to be. You need to have fundamental knowledge, and you need to be good, but not to be like the top 1%.
Yeah.
Then the next inclination is their willingness to give you a time and commitment and passion. So those things are more important than just the raw knowledge and their skills, right? So I went through a lot of trial and error with approaching people, asking people, and then I found my team of co-founders. One of them is my cousin, one of my close friend, and yeah, I think it was they just contributed the time. They just believed in the purpose, and they we just had fun. I think one of the things was if we didn't enjoy the process, we would have not been there, right? So that's how we formed the team. And regarding the marketing itself, for me, every founder has a lucky break. For me, the lucky break was I didn't need to go from for we went from zero users to 1,000 users within a few months. The reason was because a big enterprise contract, and I was lucky in that sense. I was prepared with the exact tool that a big healthcare system needs. So that was the lucky point for me. But I was prepared. We were prepared, and in fact, when we got the contract, we were still waiting for it to get through the security hardening and how to make it enterprise grade. But again, I went to a conference there and we worked with a company called Clearwater Security, which is a highly reputed company which does say, healthcare security for defense of Department of Defense and large healthcare systems. So I was able to get a contract with them, and once I get that, I think I'm sealed because when you're a healthcare tech company, the biggest thing is you need to provide value, but also need to make sure you're secure. And that was one thing that was back of the mind because the cyber security hacks and all that's happening. So we were able to get to our revenue with zero marketing by luck. And for the MediDX itself, the way we are marketing is network. I'm using different types of network. First network is people whom I went to medical school with, whom I did work together in different workplaces. So that's my first in the network, right?
Yeah.
And second network is communities, LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm a old guy, so Facebook. I use Facebook, unlike you guys, right? So we have community groups like endocrinology groups, very passionate endocrinologists where we discuss about complex challenges for endocrine cases. But we also discuss about business of endocrinology and how to navigate through different challenges, and also LinkedIn groups. So that's a second layer we're using for marketing. And the third layer is the advertising market channels itself. That's where we are going to start our marketing plans with that. We are not there yet, but for the MediDX, we're going to use that. So that's the high level overview, and it's sort of a non-traditional path because a lot of times to generate $500,000 revenue or $1 million revenue, you need to spend like 2, 3 million. I need to spend a lot of advertising market. For us, it was not the case because we just got lucky with our first enterprise client.
A lucky break that's hard to come by, and
Yeah,
for some people that doesn't happen. It's about
right,
having a network and being at the
right.
right place at the right time. Like you said, you were at a conference. That's great for you. Um, oh, how do you not sell yourself short in scenarios? Because you said, well, you had 0 users, and then you got your lucky break with Clearwater, and they were a reputable big company. But how do you know not to tie yourself down with a potentially like maybe a wrong company or people that aren't offering you maybe, I don't know, the equity that you deserve or th things of that sort? How do you not tie yourself down into a bad contract?
I think you need to get lucky as well there, but also you can also use certain principles, right? For me, whenever I'm trying to hire a person, again, I'm an avid reader and I'm also an avid podcast listener. A lot of listen to podcasts. I listen to How I Built This from Guy Raz, probably all 200 of them. So one of the things I heard in one of the podcasts, I don't remember who the interviewer, the founder was, but he does long interviews. For example, he doesn't make a decision immediately, right? So that's I use time as a modality to screen people out or in, right? For example, you do a lot of due diligence. Say if I'm hiring a team member, I basically bring them into the team meetings even before I hire them. I want them to participate. I
Okay.
want them to see how they are actually engaging with the team, not only at a technical level, but regarding what their commitment is, what their passion is. And that's how I do the interviews for a long time. Regarding engaging with companies, I do lean on to people in my network asking for advice. Hey, this is a company who I'm going with, and do you feel that's the right fit? But having said that, I had made wrong choices, but again, all this is additional information, not to make the wrong choice the next time. But due diligence, asking for more advice, taking time, right? Even in medicine, when I have a complex case,
Yeah.
when it's uncertain, I use time as a modality, right? You repeat the labs and give it time for the disease to show it up more prominently or the labs to become more prominent. And that's the thing that you use on your technology side as well.
Yeah, like you start off at CareHealth and then you learn from those mistakes. So
Yeah.
you're not going to do those same mistakes for MedX or what
Yeah.
you're doing right now for GPA plan.
Right.
You told me you texted me that you started GPA plan with a medical student. How was it partnering up with a medical student, especially someone a lot younger than yourself?
Mhm.
And how did you know who to pick? Did he come to you with the idea or was it the other way around? And
It's a,
what was the criteria you used to know like, oh, is he really passionate? Is he a good co-founder? How
sure.
do I know this is really legit?
Absolutely. A great question, right? So the idea startup was my daughter is in Urbana Champaign. She is doing um, computer science and bioengineering. So a
Sure.
very competitive major in dual majors, but she wanted to go into medicine. And she took it up for the challenge, right? She wanted to do a non-traditional path. In the first 3 months, she realized that's challenging, and then I was using my Claude to advise her because I didn't do my graduation years. I was using Claude to advise her, and then realized the amount of context I need to put through that. And for me to share that with her there's no easy way to share. Then that's how the idea came. How can I make this into an application? I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people who are struggling with sedation. That's how I formed the concept. And my daughter is busy with her own work, and actually, in an ideal world, I want her to pick this up and then use it.
Yep.
But she's already in her first year of school, and I'm complete college in her college. So then Sai is my friend's son. So again, you remember like how I get my team members through my in network, right?
Yeah.
And he is going to be incoming medical students at Houston Medical School, and he finished his graduation early, and he in 6 months. And his mom texted me and mentioned, "Hey, Sai is looking out for some opportunities. Can he engage their firm?" Again, I follow my principles, right? I test people. I basically do a long interview. So before I do this, I give him like almost like 2 to 6 weeks of projects, and he would spend double the time than me on things and would come back to with me solutions.
That's good.
And That's how I picked Sai. And again, what I had was like an initial foundation,
Mhm.
but I didn't have the entire perspective like what Sai has going through that journey himself as a high schooler, going through the SAT. And I'm pretty sure if you have time, he would love to talk with you regarding his journey, and I will like let him
I,
explain his own
I'd like
journey.
to talk to them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think I think you'll have a lot of commonalities. He's very passionate. He's a problem solver, and one of the things I love about Sai is you basically tell what the problem is, what the solution is. I don't tell anything in between.
Mhm.
He goes out there and he gets a solution to me. So for me, I don't need to babysit him. All right. So that's the beauty about it. So yeah, I think those principles what I use, the due diligence, giving it time, and actually practically testing out regarding what can be done in the field is a great way of doing it, right? So
At one point, you said you don't need to quit your job, your day job immediately. How did you know that CareHealth was really starting to take off and it was competing more with your clinical practice and mostly your time and attention in other endeavors?
so the thing is, as you know, startup is a brutal thing. It's not guaranteed. Success is not guaranteed, right? Even now, there's definitely risk of failure, right? And the startup founders are in two categories. One, people in my age who are more advanced in their careers. Like for example, I have family responsibilities.
Hmm.
I have some advantages in that aspect that I have lived through a problem. I have 6 levels down knowledge about a problem. I also have financial security as well, so I don't need to necessarily raise funds to have that initial startup capital. So the way I looked at when I approached this is, I'm a non-technical co-founder. My contributions are predominantly in the direction strategy. I'm not necessarily doing the day in and day out job. I can basically get my co-founders to do it, or I can hire a marketing executive to do other stuff, right? And taking that path has helped me because I was able to, during the first couple of years, it was not generating revenue, but I was able to put my own savings into the thing. I'm still able to generate my salary from my day job. So in a way, I think I know people say you need to quit everything and drop in,
Yeah, a lot
but
of people say that for sure.
right, and that's true probably for a fresh grad because they don't have, and again, you need a full-time thing, right?
Mhm.
But it's not true for a lot of situations. It's very, there is no single answer for everything, right? For me, it worked out, and again, I plan to become full-time eventually when the company needs me.
Mhm.
But at the moment, I have sufficient expertise in my day work, and I also use a lot of technology in healthcare myself, where I can give excellent care without any compromise, but be very efficient about it without burnout, and then dedicate enough time to my technology companies. And again, I think things have become exponentially better in the last 2 years on this side. And there are tools out there which help me, like almost like a person who can give me a second opinion
Yeah.
to make medical decisions. Because when you look at physician burnout, it's not like, oh, you fix one thing, there are like 5 layers to it, 6 layers to it, right? One of them is administrative burden with workflows. Something is going to fix it. One of them is the cognitive overload with information. So you need data abstraction, summarization tools. The third thing is the clinical decision making itself, because there's a lot of nuance in decision making. You're always second questioning yourself regarding, hey, did I make the right call for this? Is there new data on this? And what happens as a result is, in a traditional path, if you want to look up a tool and then get to that answer, it's very time consuming. But now you have HIPAA compliant, enterprise grade, and which are medical domains expertise tools, where you can put information and get a second opinion from there. Like, and your care is as excellent as any of the tertiary care centers. So you feel confident. So anyway, coming back to the question you asked, it's related in a way because now I became more efficient, I'm more confident, and I'm able to use all these tools, right? It just gives me more bandwidth to focus on the tools that I'm doing with my thing. So it also provides me that security. Even if I fail, I
Mhm.
can keep the startup going because of the cash flow, right?
Yeah.
Cash flow is the
Your
king, right? So,
salary. Yeah.
right. So, and again, I also do not have pressure. Say, if I come out and if I fail, I have like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, right? And then at some point I need to come back. But with this, I can keep on going, and I'm seeing some great traction with MediDX. We have a very large university in Midwest we are partnering with. We have a residency program in California and residency program in Oklahoma who are interested in going as a partners, founding partners, and then deploying in the healthcare systems. So I see this taking off. At some point, I will gradually move away from the clinical side to the entrepreneur to the technology side, but I still want to be seeing patients because unless you are, you know, the what's the workflow in the real time, and unless you're close to the problem, sometimes you lose the touch. And I can get other people who are experts in running the company to run the company.
Yeah, that losing touch thing, it's
Yeah.
you want to still be engaged in the world that you're the pro where you're tackling the problem. So you can't just disconnect yourself from it. And that's why a lot of people I hear they're encountering this problem, right? They're tackling it and then they step away, just like your
Right.
example you're trying to say, yeah, and that becomes a mess. So,
I'll give you
well,
an example on that as well. When a lot of technology companies, not all of them, but most of them, um, when they try to solve a clinical problem, it's almost like they're trying to solve a problem without having a deep down knowledge on what the workflow is. They may have one level down information, but not the depth, like 6 levels down.
yeah,
And they probably hire a supposedly an expert who is great on paper. Like they've been graduated from premium Ivy League institutions, but they're always in management roles. They never practice, they never did a clinical role. They didn't actually live the life. So they are hired like two things to just, so when the tool is done, it's already fully baked in and you can't change it. So the key difference in our current startup is we start with the problem and then start working backwards building solutions. We use, if there's a simple tool to create a solution for it, we use a simple tool. If we need to use AI to provide a solution to it, we use a solution. But the key thing that remains for focus is the problem. Are we solving the problem or not? Are we solving it in a way that's meaningful to the clinician? Because sometimes is the big enough problem, right? So, and again, only an experienced clinician who has stayed in a busy clinical practice will know it, or an educator who has lived through the life will know it, or who has enough network of people. For example, a lot of MediDX, the prototyping was done by me on long nights, where I'm thinking, okay, as a learner, as an educator, these were the gaps that I found. How do I get to this prototype and then make it design intuitive? And then I give it to my team to actually go on to the real thing, right? So in a way, a lot of times, what would take a enterprise team almost like a 3 to 6 months process, even to get to a feature, would be done by me. The prototype will be done by me by my night because there are no teams meeting between a business analyst, a developer, project lead. Everything is in my brain. I'm doing the teams meeting in my brain or a Zoom meeting in my brain. So I'm an end user. I'm the creator. I'm the QA tester, right? So I just want to give that overview as well.
you're a little bit of everything, jack of all trades. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now that you mentioned that you're the right person to solve the problem that you're tackling. Have you ever seen any platforms or any software products that have been implemented in hospitals or clinics that have been built by maybe only technical people and non-clinical people that you knew were just wrong or weren't fit or weren't catered for the audience that they're actually catered for because they themselves aren't experts in that field?
Yeah, and again, I don't want to name companies, right? But a lot of electronic health records is generic, I want to say. Okay,
Hmm.
an example of our workflows. Some of them are much better than others.
Yeah.
And nothing to blame with the technologists, but when they start building, there are a lot of assumptions made. Oh, this is very important. And I'll just point out one use case for you. As a clinician, I don't want to be looking at my screen. I want the screen to be clean. And look at a Google search, the data is clean. You want to look for search. There's a search bar there. You want to get there, right? Similar, when I'm seeing a patient with a complex medical condition, I only want to display the data that I want to see. A lot of electronic health records, it takes me 20 clicks to get there, right?
Yeah.
And the reason is technologically it's not challenging, but you need to do it from the get-go. So a lot of electronic health records, more so some than others, I'll not name names, are challenging to use. And you can Google and say death by 1,000 clicks and see what I mean. So it's the EHR burnout. People have done studies on, okay, what does it take to prescribe a Tylenol? In one EHR, it takes 50 clicks to get you a Tylenol prescription. What should it be, like one click, right?
Yeah, make it easy. Yeah.
Right. So, and again, smart people, but they don't know what the exact clinical workflow is, how many times they may be using in a day. I may be using a workflow 30 times a day, and each of the 30 times I need to do 20 clicks a day, 600 clicks, right? So why can't we just make that into a shortcut? If you look at iPhone, there's an app called Shortcuts. If you're using multiple actions in a day,
You get
use an app called Shortcuts in iPhone, right? So why can't we have something like a shortcut app in EHR? But a technologically driven physician founder at the initiation of the product build will be able to give all this advice as it builds, not when the company is ready for marketing and then we are trying to sell, right? You see that, right?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. It's completely different. Yeah. In your article, you mentioned that you didn't want to be the next big EHR. So, how did you stay grounded into your original mission, your original goal?
I think electronic health record is a big space and it's
Yeah.
already very mature. And there are limitations on significant, you need to be well-funded companies. So I want to go into a space where I can create value. I'm not trying to replace an entire system. So I want to see where those gaps are. And these gaps might be too small for big companies to solve. That's a area where I feel that there's financial viability for me to put my efforts in. That's how I focus on. So if you go with the bigger things, then you have bigger competitors. I want to go into a niche area where when I'm bootstrapped or when I only have a small amount of funding, to get to that revenue, then tackle the bigger ones. I'm not necessarily rigid on not changing my direction, but the emphasis, what I'm trying to solve, remains the same. I need to solve a real problem, and they should be valued by real users. And sometimes I create solutions which I don't use myself, I discard them, right? But we go into a lot of trial and errors regarding is it a real use case or not. When I started using it in my clinic, I thought, okay, the actual solution is worse than the problem itself, then I stop using it, right? So I'm I'm married to the problem. I'm focused on the problem, how to solve this, and then creating a solution around it. So that's how I stayed grounded. For me, the financial outcomes and the traction, I feel that will happen automatically based upon the efforts, if my product is genuine, right?
Yeah.
Of course, I need to make sure that I'm focusing on marketing and all that. That's where where I don't have the expertise, where I plan to get a lot of mentorship and advice and hire people to do that. Um, that's how my frame of thinking is.
Okay. Yeah, you can't be as much as you say you want to be an expert at everything, touch everything you possibly
Right.
could put your hands on.
Right.
One, you can't put your time on everything, and two, you some people are just better. Some people are experts, have the education for those type of jobs. So
Absolutely.
you can't hire the people, hire the people. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. If a pre-med wanted to follow your exact journey, and I know you said your journey was very, very rocky, you didn't really know where you wanted to start, and you
Sure,
kind of just got
sure.
into medicine as a safe net at first. But how would you tell them to follow your journey into becoming a med tech entrepreneur and
Sure.
doing exactly what you do right now?
I think there's more than one way of doing it. There are, if you're hard set on entrepreneurship, there is a traditional path of you go into certain medical schools with engineering background, and then you get hired by Silicon Valley technology companies. That's one path. Um, there, um, 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 there is a second path about what I have done, not intentionally, but happened to me. I was reading and staying curious and understanding deep down about problems and start somewhere. You may not know, and a lot of times people who are interested in this do an MBA. And I've been told in one of the book or one of the podcasts that instead of doing an MBA, start a company. Put that money, what are you going to do an MBA, into a company and start doing stuff, and you will learn the answers as you go along. So start before you're ready is a famous quote, right? So
Yeah.
embrace uncertainty, right? So that's the second path, and it doesn't necessarily mean you need to complete your entire medical training and do clinical practice of doing this stuff. So you just need to keep an open mind and take up opportunities. Look at the long-term horizon. Say, for example, if an opportunity comes to you, don't just say, "Hey, why don't you pay me an hourly rate of this to be involved in the companies?" So as want to be entrepreneur or I want to be founder, you're also trying to do due diligence on someone whom you're going to work for, right?
Yeah.
So don't cut them off by saying, asking for, okay, what is my equity? What is my how much I'm going to get paid by, or what is the outcomes? Show up there and be participatory and learn. And how I build this podcast and listen to podcasts. There's so many podcasts out there that you can listen. So that's the sort of generic advice. But if someone is really interested in this, I'm happy to meet them for 10-15 minutes on. I can give them advice. So I'm happy to do that. Just I'm always like mentoring people, and I have a lot of medical mentors, but I didn't have a sort of a life coach mentor, someone who can do this, right? But people call me for advice and all this. I tell the mistakes that I make. I ask them to make their own mistakes, not my mistakes. That was a quote from one of my trainings. So yeah, that's the sort of, I don't know if you're looking for any more specific answer, but that's the generic overview.
Okay. What is the best piece of advice you've ignored?
I'm just thinking out loud on this. I think I was probably content with what I had because I came from a very humble background. Once I got into my medical training, once I saw my paycheck, even as a trainee job,
Oh,
there is a lot of money compared to what I grew up with, right? Uh, Being content and being satisfied and not being hungry to grow for my before the age of 35 was probably that put me in a different trajectory, right? So that was probably my I wish I was more well-read and more ambitious early in my life. No one gave me specific advice. There are a few couple of people they asked me to do more, and sort of I ignored it sort of at the time. I thought I'm content.
okay. Okay. Like you said, start before you're ready.
Right.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. Well, you said you're an avid reader. Do you want to recommend a book that you've read recently, maybe your most recent read or your favorite book?
Yeah, I became more like a current event reader. I'm just trying to the most fanciest, most. I'm a big fan of Malcolm Gladwell. So um, uh, there's a book about strangers. I'll send that link to you. But
Okay.
all books from Malcolm Gladwell, I love them. I love them because they taught me regarding Outliers is a great book regarding how deliberate 10,000 hours rules make someone an expert. Because when you think someone is genius, there's always deliberate practice behind it, and the science and data behind it is fascinating. And I loved each of his book. And there's a book about stranger that starts with the title named Strangers. I'm blanking on the name. That's one of my best book. It just crossed so many disciplines on deep understanding about things.
What are you most proud of right now?
I think I'm most proud of being in the place I am in at the moment,
Mhm.
able to deliver excellent care to my patients and at the same time deliver a large leading two healthcare tech companies, one of them being deployed in a healthcare system serving 500,000 patients, helping our physicians, and we're at the verge of creating a AI educational tech company in medicine and also broadly in edutech. which I feel is going to transform education broadly with adaptive learning and sort of democratizing medical education, irrespective of where you get your medical training, whether you're in a small institution or big institution, you get the same level of medical training. So I'm very proud of that.
Something about AI. So do you think AI is a bigger threat or a bigger relief to physicians? Because I know you're heavy on that AI take.
I want to give you a balanced perspective.
Mhm.
AI is a probabilistic. So the reality is it is basically a mathematical equation, which is predicting the next word probability, right? So
Yep.
that's the so. But what I've seen at a practical level is it is really good for 90% scenarios and 10% scenarios or 10 to 20% scenarios in clinical decision support. It is not accurate, and so each physician should have good medical training to be confident enough to see what those inaccuracies are and ability to overrule the decision that the AI has given. The biggest risk that we have is no skilling. If all the trainees are just relying upon AI for their source of thing, the critical thinking is gone.
Yep.
That's the big downside. So how do we actually help trainees to use AI to help to them critical thinking than just to delegate the critical thinking to the AI, right? So understanding when even for people who are big against AI, they need to we need to understand with a granular knowledge about why not AI and then work on solutions to make that better. Like I'm saying about the de-skilling and no skilling, right? One way on the MediDX front, the way we're doing that is the AI doesn't give we are using AI for that adaptive learning to learn about your profile and then based upon your answer response, it's going to give you questions and then it'll quiz you on your deep level understanding.
Yeah.
So we are using AI itself to counteract some of the disadvantages of the AI, right? So I think this for the AI naysayers, that's one thing. Don't focus on the problem, focus on the solution regarding. Yeah, there are problems. Identify what the problems are, how to solve them, and be a part of the solution, right? Because this technology is going to be there. People who use AI are going to replace who are not using AI. That's the reality.
That's
And
true.
the only way you get good at AI is start using it, understanding its limitations, know when to use it, when not to use it. So there should be incentives for people to use AI responsibly. There should not be blanket saying it's injurious to health, like it's injurious to things, right? So there's definitely bigger discussions regarding is it going to displace workers? And again, I'm not a financial expert. There's definitely there because even my team, instead of having 20 team members, we're able to achieve this with a 7-member team, right? So there's definitely disadvantages on that side, but from the AI on healthcare, I think it's a net positive.
So I'm sure you got a lot of feedback from not just peers or not just colleagues, but from people that are genuinely critical and they want to help improve your product, right?
Mhm.
So have you ever gotten any critiques or something that you personally thought was a good idea? Maybe it was a good feature or
Mhm.
something that you implemented personally that you thought was a good idea, and people didn't like it or they didn't understand it and they didn't want to they didn't want to have anything to do with it.
All those categories. So some people didn't like it, some people didn't understand it. I did this presentation at a pitch event at a reputable accelerator program, and they didn't understand any of it because they are not in their field, right?
Yeah.
So in my field, there was one who is highly reputed, and on my first meeting, she really loved it. On the second meeting, and again, there was a bias against AI. Oh, are you using AI for this adaptive learning? And then I don't think we can trust this. How are you going to do? So we can't, like anything in life, you can't expect 100% perfection. You can't, right? For example, we need to go to 97%. How do we actually, right? So I did have critics like that. So which I felt was someone need to understand how to achieve, for example, for the end goal that functionality should work, we need to use AI because it can't be done by deterministic algorithm, right? So and again, I take that into a consideration, and then we basically see how we can adapt those criticisms into enhancements. Product. So if you look at MediDX, it has 1,000 functionalities, and each of them came from either critical feedback or a need or request from users. So I have done upwards of 100 demos to healthcare leaders across the US. And it just keeps on evolving and the rapid pace of development.
Slow and steady, but you'll get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So now, one of the last questions. So if somebody were listening to this podcast and they didn't listen to a single word you said, how do you want them to remember you by?
I think stay curious. I think this is a famous word, right? Stay curious, stay foolish, right? And you never know that how to connect dots thinking forward. You always look back and say, oh, that's the reason why it happened, right? So, yeah, I think especially with the AI going to change the job space, you just need to be very broadly thinking. You need to be very knowledgeable, stay current with all the developments so that you can pivot. In the past, only a founder should pivot, but now every person who's living should pivot in their life. They need to maybe do a different job, different careers, because every career that we see now is going to be different. So I think people want to remember me as someone who's curious.
This is AP Med. My name is Andrew Poveda, and we just interviewed Dr. Chaitanya.